There are so many developments with the Steam Deck that's happening all the time, so here's the biggest news that you may have missed over the past week. The newest stable update for Valve's Proton is officially here. Proton 10.0-4 was released yesterday, bringing with it a ton of new games that are playable and a bunch of fixes. These new playable games include some VR games, but most of these will actually be playable on the Steam Deck. These include Fellowship, Metal Slug Awakening, and Drop Dead: The Cabin. And on top of that, we do have a plethora of fixes for games like Far Cry 5, Marvel Rivals, Ara History Untold, and Men of War 2. We also have a good chunk of regressions that were fixed, making games like Lost Planet playable again. Sackboy: A Big Adventure should no longer display a series of errors when you're trying to play. And Chrono Trigger will no longer flicker when you're playing in full screen mode. The update is available to download right now. Just go ahead and install Proton 10 if you haven't yet, and it'll just appear in your download section. On top of that, Valve has officially hit 25,000 verified or playable games that are on the Steam store. This happened a couple of days ago, and we confirmed on SteamDB that there are over 25,000 verified or playable games on Steam. Now, if you look at the Steam store, the count is going to be a little bit different. We use SteamDB specifically because it counts games that were delisted from the Steam store. While Valve's verified system isn't perfect, and there are verified games that don't play well and unsupported games that do, it is still a great way to see if a game could run on the Steam Deck. And it's a marketing tool for a lot of developers, so hopefully seeing more of this will bring more developers to want to optimize and get their game playable on the Steam Deck. Along with the stable Proton update, the community-driven fork of Proton, GE Proton, also got a new update. GE Proton 10-29 has released, and with it, a lot of components were updated, and we got some fixes for individual games. So when it comes to components, we do have updates for Wine, DXVK, VKD3D, FEX, and more. On top of that, we have controller fixes for BioShock 2 and Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And an incorrect fix for GTA 4 was removed. The update is available now, so you can go ahead and download it from Proton Up Qt, which is the way that we do it. We got confirmation recently that Nexus Mods is committing to bringing their Vortex mod manager to the Steam Deck and SteamOS. Over in a blog post on the Nexus Mods website detailing their plans for 2026, they announced that they are committing to supporting Vortex on SteamOS. They mentioned they're going to be targeting Steam hardware like the Steam Deck and Steam Machine, and not going to be officially supporting any other configurations. This is very welcome news, especially since not too long ago they canceled their cross-development app that they were making, which would have been a mod manager that we could use on the Steam Deck. So instead of making a dedicated cross-platform application, they are just making Vortex available on the Steam Deck. Now, they're not going to be supporting any other Linux distributions officially, but since Vortex is open source, other users can add their support for other Linux distributions once there's a Linux build out. This is going to be a great way to add mods to some of your favorite games, including Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Skyrim Special Edition, and even Stardew Valley and Cyberpunk 2077. There's no ETA on when this will be released, but I personally hope that it's going to be soon. Ever since its release, Hytale has been the talk of the town, and Steam Deck support may be coming a little later than you expect. We talked to the co-founder of Hypixel Studios, Kevin Karstens, to ask about Steam Deck support for Hytale. And in our conversations, he mentioned that handheld PCs were not something that they explicitly promised for the 1.0 launch, so it's not going to be part of their plan before it gets to 1.0. However, that doesn't mean it won't come before 1.0. He mentions that a lot of the optimizations that they're going to be doing are going to run in parallel for what they're going to be doing for the Steam Deck, so it's very possible that we could be seeing this before 1.0. However, it's not something that they're specifically putting a time frame on. But they are taking it seriously. They are looking at ways to optimize the battery and focus on the smaller screen's UI. And he did confirm that no matter what, the Steam Deck support will be coming before a console launch or a mobile launch. So while we can't say when this is going to be released, we do have some confidence that it's going to be pretty good on the Steam Deck, especially since it's already pretty good on the Steam Deck. Even without these optimizations, the game runs exceptionally well on the Steam Deck, and I highly recommend checking it out if you're a fan of voxel open-world multiplayer survival games. When it comes to emulating on the Steam Deck, there's really only two tools that I personally use, and RetroDECK is one of them. It also just got a massive update, which overhauled the backend completely to make any future updates significantly faster to come out. The new 0.10.0b update is here, and with it comes over 2,100 commits to completely overhaul the backend. It basically changes the structure of the program and makes it more flexible and scalable, which should make adding in new emulators and new features significantly easier. With each component now being more isolated within the RetroDECK program, they can add and change things in certain emulators or engines without it affecting the others. Which is why adding in new emulators and programs and engines are going to be much quicker in the future. But that's not all. This update also brought in 3 new emulators: Xroar, Azahar, and Ryubing. We also have the brand new engine OpenBore and support for a new system, Flips. The new update should be available now, and if you don't have it yet, you can download RetroDECK from the Discover store. The Steam Deck client got a decently sized new update, which brought with it a lot of the fixes that we've seen in the beta branch of the client. These include the controller glyphs in the footer of your screen changing once you connect a controller instead of when you start inputting with it, fixes for certain games using the Steam DRM that exit unexpectedly like Mafia 2, added support for Razer's Raiju V3 Pro controller, your library filters getting new accessibility and language options so you can filter your library more specifically, a fix for Hori Steam controller when you're using Bluetooth, and some new options for gyro controls. The new Steam client update is available now, and you can go ahead and download it over in the system settings on your Steam Deck. The verified system does have its flaws, but some developers do go above and beyond, and that's what Moonlighter 2 developers are doing right now. In a post made on Reddit, the developer, Digital Sun Games, has claimed that they want to go beyond Valve's checklist when it comes to optimizing their newest game, Moonlighter 2, for the Steam Deck. In the post, they mentioned that Valve's system is a useful baseline, but it's not a perfect system. A lot of it focuses on readability and input support, and not always on the deeper aspects like sustained performance, memory usage, or how the game behaves after long play sessions. So they asked directly what we expect from a verified game on the Steam Deck, and if they're going to go beyond Valve's checklist, they want to do it in a direction that actually matters to players. Now, this is something that we have echoed constantly, that Valve's checklist is okay, but it's not a good indicator of how a game actually performs on the Steam Deck. So it makes me very happy to see, and there have been some great suggestions for ways that Digital Sun could improve Moonlighter 2. A lot of the comments were geared around that readability by being able to scale the UI and having larger text size to make sure that we can read everything that's on the screen. But there were some other great points that were there, like native gamepad support, being able to support the 1280 by 800 resolution, 45 or 60 frames per second stability, and the virtual keyboard popping up when it's supposed to. Now, Moonlighter 2 is already running pretty well on the Steam Deck so far, so I don't think they have to really change too much, but I'm very excited to see that they recognize where they can improve the game as well, and that they're going to be taking the extra step to actually get user input to make it the best experience possible. So my hat is off to the team, and I can't wait to see what they're going to be doing in the future with Moonlighter 2. NonSteamLaunchers got a small new update recently, but it had some pretty nice changes to it. The biggest one was easily re-enabling SD card support. Now we should be able to move content that we install with NonSteamLaunchers, which include third-party launchers, over to the SD card. This was a feature that was originally with NonSteamLaunchers, but unfortunately was taken out due to some issues. On top of that, we can now install Big Fish Games Manager with NonSteamLaunchers, which is a hub for point-and-click games, and now we can install LibreWolf and Vivaldi through this script. The free plugin for Junkstore has added lossless scaling support directly into the plugin. Junkstore is a free plugin that allows us to play and use our Epic games from the Steam Game Mode UI. So now with this new update, we can automatically bring in lossless scaling support to the Epic games that are there. Now, there are ways to go around doing this already. You could get the lossless scaling plugin directly or use Decky FrameGen, but this is still a nice little addition that allows us to just do everything within this one plugin. Now, if you want to access more of your storefronts like GOG and Amazon Prime, you are going to have to pay $40 annually for Junkstore 2.0. However, there are some free alternatives like UnifiDeck, which is another plugin, and you could use the Heroic Games Launcher or Lutris if you're okay with a third-party launcher. Speaking of which, the Heroic Launcher actually just got a brand new update after 5 months of no updates. The new update is a relatively small one compared to a lot of the others that we've seen in the past, but it does bring in new support for the Zoom platform. This is another great platform where we can buy games, and Zoom is also a developer, where they have optimized some of the games that they have on their store. On top of that, there were some new options and UI changes that came from this update, and some changes for macOS, but ultimately the biggest thing with this is we have experimental support for the Zoom platform. And finally, HoYoverse games may be coming to Steam soon. There have been some posts on Twitter recently that talk about the Genshin 6.4 client reportedly trying to load the Steam API 64.dll. However, none of the post's authenticity could be verified as we couldn't find the source where they got this information. However, as we were researching, we actually came across a Reddit post that started to give this a little bit more authenticity in a different way. In a post on the Genshin Impact Leaks subreddit, there is proof that HoYoverse's account management system has added the following Steam-related strings to their localized message file. And these do mention Steam Play records and having not logged into Steam before. Now, none of this is confirmation, but these are links directly to HoYoverse's website, and we could verify it ourselves. Now, this could be them just preparing for an eventuality, and nothing is set in stone since there has been no official announcement, but it's pretty clear that they are looking into possible Steam support. And this could be good news for us on the Steam Deck, since if you're on the Steam store, you're more likely to support the Steam Deck as well. Of course, this is all just conjecture, and nothing is set in stone, and there's been no official announcement, but can still hope. And that's about it for the news that you may have missed for your Steam Deck over the past week. There have been a ton of changes, especially when it comes to Proton and the Steam Deck client, but there have been a lot of developer changes and some games that are going to be more playable on the Steam Deck because of it. On top of that, having updates for programs like RetroDECK and NonSteamLaunchers is welcome. Still, there have been so many updates for the Steam Deck this week, and we can't wait to see what's going to be happening next week with the Steam Deck in mind. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. See you next time.